Listening to TVs.
Oh, our TVs are off on this side, Sherry.
We'll just wait a moment to get those running.
We can.
Okay. We're 30 seconds away, I guess.
Yeah, as soon I think we have quorum and we have one member who has sent their regrets.
Recording in progress.
Waiting for the time. Even the seat. Yeah.
No.
The hot seat.
Yes, thank you, Chair.
It is now 3 o'clock. I am the chair of the Regional Hospital District, North Gisborne, and I will be calling this meeting to order. And I'd just like to acknowledge that we are on the traditional territory of the Tla'amin peoples, and we have a quorum. However, we do have an absence of Brendan Louie, who is off due to a sudden loss of a young mother in the Tla'amin community, and our hearts and condolences go out to them. With that, we have approval of the agenda. Item 2.1. Are there any additions or changes? If not, then I would like a mover. Director Brander, Director McCormick. Is there any discussion? Seeing none, I'm going to call the question. All in favor? Any opposed? None. That is carried. Okay, on to adoption of the minutes. Now we've got to catch up. We got 3 separate minutes. Item 3.1. February 20th, 2024. Are there any errors or omissions? Seeing none, can I have a mover? Director Lennox, seconded by Director Brander. Any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor? Motion is carried unanimously. Item 3.2, minutes of September the 25th. Are there any errors or omissions? Seeing none, can I have a mover? Director Lennox, seconded by Director Elliott. Discussion? All in favor? Any opposed? None. That's carried. Item 3.3, October the 16th minutes. Are there any errors or omissions? Seeing none, moved by Director McCormick, seconded by Director Elliott. Any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor? Any opposed? None. That's carried. Okay, moving on to delegation and inquiry. We have no registered delegations, but do we have any unregistered delegations?
Would not be made aware of it.
Thank you, Corporate Officer. We have no unfinished business and no on to correspondence. 6.1 and 6.2, recognizing Director Fall. Floor is yours.
I'd like to pull 6.1, Chair.
Okay, 6.1 will be the new 7.1. And for 6.2, I'm actually going to pull 6.2 and have it added as 7.2. And with that, we don't need a motion to receive correspondence because we adopted the agenda, therefore it's automatically received. Okay, moving on to 6.1. 7.1. Thank you, Director. Director Fall, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Chair. I've just sent a proposed motion to our corporate officer, which she might be able to put up. And, there's a couple options here. Things are a bit awkward, which I'll talk to if this gets passed or seconded, that the board direct the chair to contact the chair of the Nanaimo Regional Hospital District regarding the information requested by the Lasqueti Last Resort Society.
Is there a seconder? Director Lennox.
And if I could speak to that, Chair, it seems like there's 2 routes here. The Lasqueti, as we know, is always awkward, and we're in the Island Health. And our nurse services come from Island Health, but of course we're also in the Cadet Hospital District because that's where we pay our taxes to, and I sit on this board. So it's a little bit awkward, and that's why they're writing to us. They don't know, they seem to not, they're seeking help for finding out information, who to contact for services in Island Health. Now we can do advocacy. Of course, we exist primarily for capital, but we can do advocacy, and the Nanaimo Region Hospital District has a advocacy select committee, I believe. And so, the 2 routes I could see is that we, the motion on the table would be to ask our chair if he's willing to contact their chair and see if they that information could be dealt with through them, maybe through that committee. If that doesn't work, then the other option is to ask our staff to contact our contacts in Vancouver Coastal Health and see if they're willing to help reach out and find the people in Island Health. I think it's not very efficient cost-wise to ask our staff to try to find out the right contacts in Island Health if we don't have them. So unless staff believe they do have contacts, I think this motion is at least a step in the right direction.
Okay. In that case, I'll be next on the speakers list. I'd be fine to follow the direction given by this motion. I've been in contact with the chair of the Sky Regional Hospital District and the Sunshine Coast Regional Hospital District. And there's been also some discussion around how does the regional hospital districts on Vancouver Island operate, because it's a different health authority. So, I was actually planning to reach out to some of the chairs of the regional hospital districts on Vancouver Island. So this is actually perfect timing. So I'd be happy to do it.
Great, thank you.
Any other speakers? Seeing none, I'm going to call the question. All in favor? Any opposed? None, that's carried. Okay, now item 7.2. And I've put a motion to our corporate officer, and we'll get it up on the screen. Sorry, it's fairly wordy.
Oh, money.
Can you increase the
Size at all?
size, please?
Maybe I could turn around. I will give it a go.
Thank you.
Perhaps
Just a little.
over to.
I can read it out if that helps folks. It's not as big. There's several whereas clauses, and then there's 3 therefore clauses.
Thank you.
Mhm.
There we go.
I would be happy to move it if there was a seconder.
Second that.
Okay. Thank you, Director Lennox.
Didn't finish reading it.
Give people a
No, I
chance.
just got to see Andrew.
Hi, Andrew.
Yeah.
Director
Hey,
Paul, my
Still here. Still here.
It's a bit long there. Maybe leave it up for folks.
Well, and my eyes aren't working that well.
We're just
For
getting
that
that
distance, right? Okay.
And since it's been moved and seconded, since I was the mover, I will speak briefly to this item. So first of all, thank you for all the letters of correspondence from members of the public. We do take those letters and concerns seriously. I have broken down the letters based on the existing supportive housing and the proposed supportive housing, because some letters speak of both, some letters speak about one. And I just wanted to clarify to any members of the public that when it comes to the regional hospital district, we are the landowner of 4910 Joyce Avenue. And that was a decision to have that lease, I believe, in 2018, before myself or many other members of this board were around the table. But we are not the landlord or the proposed landlord for the new supportive housing project. The reason I've crafted this motion is very similar to what's going on in the district of Sechelt. That's where you'll see some of the language very similar. Hopefully their counselors don't get upset with me for plagiarizing. But the first 2 clauses are the whereas, where we are committed to ensuring the safety and well-being of all residents, including those living in supportive housing. And the second whereas is that we are the landowners of the current supportive housing project. The 3 therefores, the first is the asking our staff to produce the current lease agreement, which is between the regional hospital district and the supportive housing. And the second one is very similar to what's going on in District of Sechelt, where they're asking BC Housing for the information with those housing contracts. Now, just to clarify, that information may have to be dealt with in camera, as it's something between the provincial government and local government. And with that, our hands are tied, even though we would all like to be as transparent as possible. And then the third, therefore, is that the QRHD board intends to work collaboratively with the City Council of Powell River to ensure greater consistency related to shared commitments surrounding supportive housing, mental health, community safety, and the provincial service agencies, because they're going through this process right now. And I just think it might be a good idea that we can, share what our objectives are and work together on making sure that we're somewhat consistent, because if you got two separate lease agreements with the same ministry, that might get confusing between various parties. So that's why I've brought this forward, and I will throw the floor open to any other comments or from other directors. Director Lennox, what is yours?
Thank you, Chair, and thanks for your motion. I think I took the time to read each one of these and think about them, and I acknowledge citizens, that took the time to actually put their thoughts down, and not just in a sort of punitive or complaint driven, but really with facts, things that are impacting them in the real lives, things that are impacting the clients that are receiving these services. So, I read them. Some are understanding of the complexities that are involved, right? This isn't simple stuff we're trying to do to support people's housing and support hopefully their recovery and things like that. It's clear that people are paying a price for some of the what I personally call a social experiment that's underway, and it's failing the community currently. Doesn't mean that it can't be fixed, but it's also failing many of the clients that I've seen personally in the community. One of the quotes stood out to me, impacted me a little bit there. I feel as a law-abiding citizen, I have no voice. That's a profound statement for somebody to put down on paper. So I want the public to know you have a voice. It's being heard. I think Director Gisborne's motion is appropriate right now. I don't understand the lease agreements. I've learned a lot since the process began. So I'd like to know that more. So then we can decide if there's any appropriate actions that can be taken or not. So thank you for that.
Anyone else? Director Elliott, floor is yours.
So it might help for my comments if we had the motion up. And it's the first time we've seen the motion or had a crack at how it's worded. And I think the intention to investigate and collaborate to find solutions is absolutely correct. Some of the wording seems to suggest a jurisdiction that we don't have, which worries me around managing expectations of what it is hospital board can do. For example, I think we definitely are interested in the safety and well-being of all residents. I think it's another jurisdiction that actually ensures that. Ensure is like a word that's affiliated with clients or and enforcement sometimes. And so I was worried about some of that wording suggesting that we might have actual jurisdiction to enforce things that we may not be able to. So I think we're trying to promote and collaborate towards all of those things. The word ensuring is problematic for me in that I think we're not going to be able to enforce anything necessarily on our own because of jurisdiction.
That's a very good point. Are you putting forward an amendment to remove the word ensuring?
Yes, I just haven't quite figured out what we put there instead. Well, we're definitely interested, obviously, but I don't know if ensuring is quite the right word.
Well, if we just got rid of ensuring, it would say the hospital district is committed to the safety and well-being of all residents.
That would help, yes.
Okay, I see
And
that.
then it's further down in your motion in the therefore as well.
Ensure greater.
To ensure greater consistency, whereas whether you want, I think maybe promote would work better in that spot.
So the first ensure to be removed and the second ensure to be amended to promote.
Yeah.
Now, is that going to require two separate amendments, or could we do it with one amendment?
So you can do this both two ways. We can have a motion on the table to do those amendments, or you can see if everybody at the table agrees with those amendments.
Is everyone in agreement with having those amendments? I'm seeing thumbs up. Yeah, I think that's a friendly amendment, or it's not a technical term, by consensus, I think. Okay, so with that, that wording has been adjusted. Thank you for your comments, Director Elliott. Director McCormick, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Chair. I agree with the motion because I think it's important that we support the well-being of the people in these institutions, but also the well-being of the community in which they're located. And both of those factors are important. So, yeah, I'm really glad to see the motion, and maybe when we see what the renewal dates look like and so on, we'll have some further thoughts. So thank you for bringing that forward.
Thank you. Any other directors wishing to speak? Director Southcott, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Chair. I appreciate and agree with the sentiment of the motion. In reviewing the jurisdiction of the regional hospital district, I reread the Hospital District Act. Section 20 describes or defines the purposes, and from a jurisdictional standpoint, the only power that this board has, it would be a very heavy, it would be using a sledgehammer for something that's very delicate. So I have very reservations in going down this road because it conveys, and I think possibly the sentiment or the intention could be redirected to committee level or a working group level, of which there are various opportunities and others emerging, I am hoping, in this community to address these very concerns. I don't think these concerns are going away anytime soon, sadly. Wonderful if they were. The point here is that I don't believe this board has the jurisdiction and therefore truly the opportunity to really do anything about this in a way that is appropriate at this point anyway. Because the only thing we could do is consider dissolving the lease. We're not going to do that. Not anytime soon anyway. I mean, if we were to even consider that, it's way down the road. So that's the basis of my reservations. And I want to reiterate that I absolutely agree with where the sentiment is coming from. It's not the right way.
Thank you for your input. And I share a lot of those similar concerns. The motion itself is mainly to try and get the information. I do believe you are correct. We as a hospital district are very limited, and to Director Elliott's point, like we don't deal with like the fire departments and police services. So yeah, I don't see us, jumping to terminate any leases. I think right now motion is to just ask, can we get a copy of the lease? Like, when does it expire? Because my thoughts, and I'm sorry to be putting myself on the speakers list.
No, it's good.
To make a point of order.
Oh, is 2018, before a lot of us were sitting here, the board of the day had objectives. Now we're many years later. Are those objectives the same? Are those objectives being met? And part of the thing that regional hospital districts can do is advocacy. And I think all the comments around the table are very important and very impactful. And it is a good reminder to our board, that Director Southcott pointed out, is we do have very limited jurisdiction here. Director Elliott, wait, is there anyone who has not yet spoken? Director Fall.
I'll be brief. I just want to say, I think a lot of the comments have been very good. And I think just to build on the most recent points about expectation management, I think gathering information makes sense. Clearly there's a public interest here. We have a lot of letters. I think it's incumbent on us to do what we are able to do. So I appreciate the motion and I support it. I think gathering information makes sense, and then we'll see where our next steps are. But I think as part of this process, the communication that we come out with will have to manage expectations of what we can do, what are our options, because maybe, the tools we have aren't very strong, but we do have advocacy powers and we have, there's a range of options. So I think we have to see where we go with this, but I think communicating what we are able to do and why we're constrained in certain ways is important. We can't solve all problems.
Thank you. Anyone else who has not yet spoken? Oh, sorry, it's only for board members.
Not yet.
Director Elliott, the floor is yours.
Thank you. So I think the intention of the motion is to provide information, acknowledge we have a role, and that role is to work with and coordinate and cooperate with other agencies. That's how I read the motion. There are many ways we could say that one. That one's a wordy way of saying it, but
So you have met me.
So I agree with all of those things. I don't think we've asked for a report or options or anything at this point. Once we have more information and we've written a letter to try and insert ourselves into the cooperation part of it, we maybe then find ourselves in a position to ask for something. Right now, we aren't in a position to ask for anything simply because our role is to be part of a collaborative process. And one of the things about a collaborative process is it starts by reaching out and saying, hey, please include me. And I think that's what this is trying to do. Correct me if I'm wrong.
That is the intent of the motion when I put it forward. So the last whereas, which is the QRHP board intends to work collaboratively with the City Council of Powell River, that therefore clause is not saying we're appointing someone to some kind of committee. It's just signaling our intent to say, hey, we would like to work collaboratively with the other agencies. And then we can send that out to BC Housing, Vancouver Coastal Health, and the City of Powell River. And then they might come back and say, hey, we want to work with you, but can you do it through this avenue? And then we can then bring that back to our board and then make a decision. I think that is correct. Is that how it's also being interpreted by our staff?
Very clear.
Oh.
Kind of came into the party late. So.
That's okay. Okay.
Yeah, sorry, just quickly, I wanted to sort of, and I appreciate the last few comments because that's, I took some of the points about, it is about learning. As I said before, I don't know enough about what our lease says, what the law says, what our powers can and can't be. But we do have a power that we can exercise and need to, and we're doing right now is speaking up for people, right? In the city, in our region about the questions that they're asking. We need more information. So we have many times I've learned in this just over 2 years that we may not have official quote unquote power because it's BC government, federal government, what have you, but we have a power to speak up because our citizens talk directly to us. So I just wanted to remind.
Thank you. Is there anyone else? Seeing no hands, I'm going to call the question. All in favor? Any opposed? I guess that's unanimous. Hey. Just for those that don't know, if someone does not vote, they're counted as favor automatically. Yeah, they're counted as in favor. If someone doesn't raise their hand, I do that all the time. Okay, well, actually, hold on a moment. We're at 3:22. I believe our board meeting starts at 3:30. I'm just wondering if our assembly would like to adjourn so that we can get our board meeting started on time and then we could reconvene the hospital district. What is the will of the assembly?
Your waiver.
It's pretty long.
May I just, we do have Linda Green here who joined us to present. So perhaps we could deal with 12.1, 12.2.
That is a very good input. So we have our manager of financial services here ready to go for item 12.1 and 12.2. So let's get on to Director Elliott.
I would make the motion in the package that the board endorse the 2024 audit service plan for the Gazette Regional Hospital District as proposed by NNP LLP.
Moved by Director Elliott, seconded by Director Lennox. Okay, do we want to have, well, usually we ask for some questions first, but now that the floor is open, we have Linda Greenan here. The chair is going to request, does Linda Greenan have anything to present to us before we jump into this item? Or are you just here for questions?
Thank you, Chair. I could do a short presentation, or because we're short on time, we could just jump to questions if that's the will of the Assembly. Thank you, Chair.
I'm seeing some nods around the table for just going into questions. Is that okay? Okay. I'm going to throw the floor open now. Speakers list. Who would like to speak first? Is there no burning questions from any of the directors on this one?
No, the audit plan's pretty standard. We should just.
Yeah, the audit plan is pretty standard. Okay, in that case, I'm going to call the question. All in favor? Any opposed? None. That's carried. On to 12.2, the Regional Hospital District Financial Plan Draft 1. Are there any, do we have a mover or seconder? Well, actually, no, wait. Are there any questions first? My apologies. Director Elliott.
So the draft one might benefit from a short, brief presentation from our, because it's a bit more involved.
Well, in that case, I'm going to hand the floor over to Linda Greenan, and the floor is yours to give your presentation on the financial plan draft 1.
Thank you, Chair. I'll just share my screen here. Thank you, Chair. I hope everyone can see my screen now. So this is, I'm pleased to present draft 1 of the 2025 budget for the Cathett Regional Hospital District. In this budget draft, I'll go over the assumptions that were used to develop the draft, the operations, regional hospital district operations, that includes McLeod Recovery Society, the building for that McLeod Recovery Society leases, and the operation of the grounds around the supportive housing unit. I'll go over the Vancouver Coastal Health cost share request and the Willingdon Creek Village lease, and then I'll review the reserve fund contributions and the residential tax rates per $100,000 and per average home. So the operational costs are estimates based on either estimates that we have, specific estimates, or just a bulk estimate of what we expect to spend in 2025. Return on investments is estimated at 3%. Tax rates are always expressed as a residential tax rate per $100,000. And the tax rates in this package are based on the 2024 revised roll values. The actual 2025 tax rates will be based on the 2025 revised roll values when they're available, which is at the end of March. And the 2024 actuals that you see in your package are to December 6th, as that's the information that we had when the budget was developed. As far as operations, we have the Arbutus Street building, and that is currently leased to the McLeod Recovery Society. So there are no costs projected as the society has been maintaining that building. The Abbotsford Street, where the supportive housing unit is located, there's $5,000 budgeted for debris removal, danger tree removal, just general cleanup in the surrounding areas. And legal fees are budgeted at $10,000. Professional fees are at $10,000. And insurance, we've projected an 11% increase. We're not sure what the insurance will be, but that's what we're projecting. And we're projecting it based on the 11% over the 2024 actuals. The Vancouver Coastal Health cost share request, we don't have any current requests in, although we are still paying down the 2021 and 2022 to 2023 cost share requests. And what we did was we funded some of the cost share requests from borrowing. So there was 1.5 million taken out for the 2022 cost share requests, or sorry, the 2021 cost share request. And that borrowing was at 4.09%. So the debt payment is $191,000 per year, and that will be paid off in 2032. The other cost share request, the 2022 cost share request, we took out $591,000, and that was borrowed at a rate of 4.97%. And the payment is $80,677 per year. And the borrowing will be repaid in 2023. So the unspent balance of the Vancouver Coastal Health cost share requests will come forward to the 2025 budget, and we'll have a better estimate of those for the final draft of the budget. The Willingdon Creek Village is budgeted in this 2025 budget with a lease revenue of 1.19 million based on our contract with BCH. Debt payments are estimated at $1.8 million per year, and that will be extinguished in 2034. And the interest rate is 4.52% until 2028. And then in 2028, it will be reset for the final 5 years. The maintenance reserve, we have a $240,000 annual contribution, which is funded through part of the lease revenue that we received from Vancouver Coastal Health Authority. And that is because the Regional Hospital District is responsible for all of the building envelope. And the maintenance reserve is estimated at $2.65 million at the end of 2025. And the general reserve fund contribution, we have a current contribution of $1.817 million. And that is based on $20 per $100,000 of tax of assessed value. And also there's a $100,000 contribution in there in case Vancouver Coastal Health comes forward with
In case.
to ask for a cost share request. And at the end of 2025, the balance of that reserve fund is projected at $7.18 million. And that can be used for asset renewal, replacement, or upgrades, and or VCH cost share requests. It's up to the board how exactly that funding is used. So as far as residential tax rates, this budget means a residential tax rate between $36.13 for most residents within the Regional Hospital District catchment area. And for Tla'amin Nation, it means $25.78 per $100,000. So it's about a 3% increase overall. So tax rates per average home vary based on the average home values throughout the region. So the cost per average home is estimated at about $213 for people within the City of Fall River boundaries, $148 within the Tla'amin Nation, $177 in electoral area A, $162 in Savory Island, $215 within electoral area B, $232 within electoral area C, $145 within electoral area D, and $196 within Lasqueti Island electoral area E. So the next steps are draft 2 will be presented in January 2025, and then the final budget is proposed for March 2025. And now if anyone has any questions.
Jump in real quick. So we have a VCH working group where we are trying to get this information a little bit earlier. I know I didn't actually give my chair's report, but there's a time sensitivity and trying to get things done. Our recent meeting with VCH, they indicated that they're going to get our cost share request ready for February. And I'm just wondering if our manager of financial services has heard, are we going to get any of those things maybe a little bit earlier, like maybe for January? I think around the table, we gave them a little bit of pressure saying, you know, February is a bit late for us. And that's kind of the reason why we created this working group and jumped on board, was so that we're not getting big financial asks at the 11th hour. So have you heard anything from VCH about what their cost request is, or are we going to, you know, be down to the wire again?
Thank you, Chair. I don't have any information on the specific cost share requests, although last year they did give us a heads up as to that they were going to be submitting a cost share request. But I haven't heard anything further since then.
Okay. In that case, I'll do what I can to put a little pressure on them. Okay, the floor is open to the other directors. Who would like to go first? Director Elliott.
So I've heard a lot about the need to replace Evergreen and that it's in the plan somewhere. Is that in our plan for saving in the reserves, or is it we just save a certain amount per reserves and we address that once VCH comes forward with a plan? How does that work exactly?
Through the chair.
Thank you, Chair. Through the chair, the funding that we're saving is could potentially be put towards those types of replacements, and then that would be up to the board. So we haven't specifically been asked for funding yet to replace Evergreen. That's always a negotiation between Vancouver Coastal Health and the provincial government to see how much money they would get from the provincial government before they'll come to us. So so we don't have any specific funds set aside for that.
Thank you.
And anyone else? Dr. Southcott.
Yeah, thank you, Chair. So through the chair, there is a difference in the cost per 100,000 in average home between City of Powell and electoral areas and Tla'amin. Is that because I know this is the kind of thing that raises questions, and so I'm raising the question. Is that because of the considerable health services provided directly that the nation provide for their residents directly? Or what's the explanation for that difference?
I can give a brief answer, and I'm sure Linda Green can give a much more detailed one. My understanding is that Tla'amin is a relatively new treaty, and when they joined, they were joining to pay for the things and the decisions after they joined. So a lot of the decisions that were made before they joined, they're not tied into those kind of funding models. And I think I got that correct, but I'll hand it over to Linda Green, and then I'm sure you can make it make a lot more sense. Floor is yours.
Thank you, Chair. Yes, so when Tla'amin joined, they would the part of the letters patent was that they do not pay for any decisions that were made pre them joining the table. So the one decision that was made before they joined was entering into the lease agreement with Vancouver Coastal Health. So when we're looking at the requisition, we exclude the costs associated with Vancouver Coastal Health with the Willingdon Creek Village lease. And so they have a bit smaller of a requisition base.
Does that answer your question?
Yep, thanks.
And for anyone at home, the Willingdon Creek Village funding model is actually kind of a maiden Powell River model. Apparently we were one of the first in the province to do that, where rather than waiting for the province to fund the facility, we went our own way, paid for it all ourselves, but that's why we're now getting this funding from Vancouver Coastal Health. We were very ahead of the curve in relation to that, and as a result, we actually have a long-term care facility that can take some of the burden that we're experiencing in this community. Anyone else? Director McCormick, floor is yours.
Thank you, Chair. One of our cost share loans is 591,000 at 4.97%. Now, interest rates have fallen since then, and you know, borrowing rates have also fallen. And I'm just wondering, is there an opportunity to renegotiate that rate, or do we have to wait until it's done?
I think I might know the answer, but I'm going to pass the floor to Linda Green.
Thank you, Chair. Through the chair. No, Municipal Finance Authority no longer allows you to pay down a part of the debt. They used to let you pay down a part of the debt once you reach the 10-year mark, but they no longer allow that. And so that debt is locked in for the 10 years. But the rate will change after 5 years. That rate is not locked in for 10 years, it's just for 5 years.
It should be about halfway through then, I believe.
Is that correct?
We're just in the first and second year of those loans, so we'll have to wait 2 and 3 or 3 and 4 more years until we get to the 5-year mark.
Thank you. Any other questions? Seeing none, did we have a mover for this one yet?
No, not yet.
Okay, so question period has ended for our motion. Do we have a mover for this motion?
So moved.
Director Lennox, seconded by Director Fall. I think you guys are at the same time. Yeah. Okay, is there any debate on this item? Seeing none, I'm going to call the question. All in favor? Any opposed? None, that's carried. Okay, the next item of business is actually 12.3, but that has to do with our meeting schedule. We are now past the time of the regional district board meeting starting. But before we have a motion to adjourn, I would just like to ask, would it be okay with the assembly if we have a question period right now? We have members of the public and we can get that sorted out so that way they don't have to wait until after the board meeting. Seeing any objections? Seeing none. Okay, we are now on to question period. Are there any questions from the public or the press? Seeing none. Is Paul online? Nope. Okay.
I am, Chair. Thank you. I don't have any questions at this point. Thanks for the opportunity.
Okay, now I would like a motion to adjourn until after the regional district board meeting. Correct?
Like a recess.
Oh, recess. Or sorry.
Whatever the proper.
You can adjourn a meeting and fix a time to adjourn. So that's exactly what you would be doing with that. And then we would reconvene the exact same meeting in the exact same order of business at that time.
This is what I move.
Moved by Director Levitt, seconder, Director Southcott. Okay, any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor? Opposed, none. That's carried. Okay, we will reconvene after the